Welcome, everyone, to the Wake Invest in Women Networking 101 discussion session. We're so happy that you were able to join us today. We have Kate Lewis. I'm not going to even start to tell you all the things that's on her bio. I'm going to let her introduce herself because she's the bomb.com. That's my personal. I'm just going to say that. She's the bomb.com, and she's a wonderful connector, wonderful person. Her heart is pure with really just the intention of being able to connect people, getting them with the right person and the right opportunities and opening doors. And she's just naturally, her ability, her natural personality of just being a people person. And so I'm just really glad that she's taken the time out today to just share with us some of the tips and the tricks and ways that we're able to maneuver, because it's not everybody's strongest suit of walking into a room with strangers and being able to walk out with telephone numbers and having made real connections. So thank you, Ms. Lewis, so much for your time, for sharing with the Wake Invest in Women community. And I'm going to be oh, by the way, I'm Sandra DeBose. I am the program coordinator for Wake Invest in Women. Our Dr. Casey Ashton is also on the line, our director, and we're just happy on behalf of Wake Invest in Women. Thank you. Welcome. And the floor is yours. Networking 101. Have at it.
Thank you so much for those kind words, Sandra. I feel the same about you. Your smile lights up a room ever since we met a little over a year ago. It feels like forever. So welcome, everyone. I am really excited to be here and share with you some tips about networking. I'll give you a little bit of history about myself, and feel free to put questions in the chat. Feel free to take screenshots. I told Sandra, feel free to send out my PowerPoint presentation to you all to have as a reference guide afterwards, because I'm going to try to cover a lot in our short time together today. So, all right. So today I'm going to go over who I am, and then how to prepare before the networking event, what to do at the networking event, and how to follow up. And then we'll open it up for Q&A at the end. So who am I, and what do I do? This is a lot, but I have lived in Raleigh now since 2006. I moved here. My husband got a job at Cisco Systems, so we moved here in 2006, and I have been in IT staffing, recruiting, and sales for the past 15 years here in RTP. During that time, I also started my family. I have 2 young children that are elementary school age, and I worked for a couple of different firms in town, but I started on the sales side. And so in a new town, in a new city, in a sales role, networking was the way that I met people, and have been really fortunate to be a very active networker and build a good community of connections here in town. About a year and a half ago, I left my job and started my own firm, Connections Consulting Partners, because I found that, thank you, because I found that people came to me to be that connection and that bridge between people. And so recruiting is this awesome industry where you get to impact people's lives by helping them in transition, moving into a new role. But I also do a ton of referrals and introductions and lead generation through my network and through connecting people. My passion is supporting women. Specifically women in tech careers, specifically working moms, but all women, and helping women take control of their career and find a job opportunity that is very aligned with their passions and their values and their interests, to make work rewarding, but also help provide them the flexibility that they may need to support their personal life. And so I got into career transition coaching as well as recruiting, and really excited about supporting working women. I also serve on 3 nonprofit board of directors, as if I wasn't busy enough, and that's also a big part of my networking. So I'm the president of the AITP RTP chapter, which is the Association of IT Professionals. We are an all-inclusive community. Everyone is welcome, early stage, still college students or first job out of college, all the way up through CIOs consultants, retirees, and everyone in between. And we meet monthly. I also launched the Raleigh chapter for the Carolina Women in Tech Association, specifically focused on supporting, empowering, and educating women in tech careers. And then I also helped with the SIM Women chapter in RTP. But meeting people, connecting people, and talking to people is my jam. It's what gives me my energy, and I'm very passionate about always making new meaningful relationships and connecting people to new opportunities. So this is a little bit about me. So first step about networking is preparation. And I'm going to drop some quotes in because John Gordon is one of my favorite authors. He's about positive mindset and positive psychology, and he drops a lot of amazing quotes. And so I'm going to leave this quote here with you. It's also about connections, which is the name of my company. So I thought it was relevant. So we're going to talk about preparation. So this is, what do you do before the networking event? So you see an event online, you're planning to go to the event. It might be next week. I think y'all have an event with Wake Invest in Women next week, right? So you're learning today about what to do before that event. So between now and that event, what are you going to do to prepare yourself? Because you don't want to just show up to any meeting or event unprepared. So the first step is the before the event work, and what do you do? My first step is you need to practice your elevator pitch. So you're going to be meeting a lot of new people. So you need to know what you're going to say to those people. It is not 10 minutes of talking all about you, going all the way back into the beginning of time, when you were growing up and your high school best friend, right? It is a quick story about what you do or what do you want to do in your future job and why that is important to you. Share something about your values or your passions or your interests and about the impact that you want to make. Keep it short and succinct. It is not your whole resume and your whole bio like I just went through. So if I was walking into a room at a networking event, I would say, "Hi, I am Kate Lewis. I have my own company, Connections Consulting Partners. I've been doing IT staffing and recruiting for 15 years, and my passion is helping support women in their careers." That is it. It literally should only be 30 seconds, 1 or 2 sentences. Just give someone a little bit information about yourself. But you need to get good at what your pitch is, and you need to keep it short and sweet. Write it down, wordsmith it a couple of times, find the right verbs and adjectives and skills that you want to drop in there, and get ready and get it rehearsed. So when someone asks you, "Who are you?" or "What do?" you have that pitch down cold before walking into that networking event. So this is the first and utmost important, and you can script it, but it also just needs to feel natural, right? Then you're going to practice your icebreakers. So how are you going to engage a new person from across the room? What are some of the things that you're going to say to start a conversation with a stranger? This is the thing that most people are fearful about when they're networking. This is the hardest part for some people. So think about some questions. So I have a few. Let's not start with, "Where do you work?" because that could put someone who is in a job transition, unemployed, or looking for a new career in a defensive posture or uncomfortable. So let's not always, and this is the natural, and this is what a lot of people do, but it's not my recommendation for a best practice. And you're going to be the best networkers in the room, right? So we're not going to start with, "Where do you work?" or "What do you do?" Too personal, and you don't know the person yet. But we could talk about, how long have you lived in RTP or in Raleigh or in Durham, right? Most people are transplants. I'm meeting some people that actually grew up here and went to college here and stayed here and are working here. But people like me, right? When I introduced myself, what did I say? I moved here in 2006. So now you know I've been here 16 years. That gives you also a follow-on question to ask. Well, where were you from before 2006, Kate? You weren't born in North Carolina. Maybe I could ask, where were you born? Where are you from? And I would share Buffalo, New York. And you'd be like, oh, well, I know someone from Buffalo, New York, or maybe that's a way. Because the goal is to find things in common that you have with this new person that you've met, this stranger, to build rapport and to feel comfortable with that person. Also, a common theme here is, where did you go to college? Or what's your favorite college sports team, right? Are you an NC State Wolfpack fan, or a UNC Tar Heels fan, or Duke basketball fan? One of the ones that I like to ask is, what is a book you've recently read? So I'm a bookworm. Actually, I'm an Audible junkie. I listen to my podcasts and my Audibles. I don't read a lot of books and paper anymore. But this is interesting, and it is personal, and it kind of gives people something else to talk about and relate to, right? So I'm always looking to add books to my Goodreads list, right? So what's the most recent book or movie? Maybe you're a movie buff, right? Or, oh yeah, Audible on 2x speed. You can't go slow, at least 1.5x for me. I talk fast. I'm sorry. I will apologize in advance. You don't need to do me on 2x speed on the Audible playback of this. But what movie have you recently watched, or what's your recent Netflix binge, right? Or video game that you play or something, right? Just find a way to relate to this new person. Worst case scenario, say, this is my first time at this meetup. Is this your first time? I'm new here, right? Put yourself out there and be a little vulnerable, but just find a way to build rapport. The other thing is, you need to research who else is going to be there. This is part of this preparation. You're not at this event yet, right? So research the RSVPs and the speakers, right? They're at least going to publish the speakers, but sometimes, depending on if it's like a meetup or Eventbrite or what their registration page is, you're also able to see the other attendees that have registered. And then you can do a quick LinkedIn search and do a little bit of research and kind of get a feel for who else is going to be there. And it's not stalking because it's publicly available information, but you're doing your research and your homework because you may be trying to intentionally bump into or meet someone when you're there. So research the speakers and the attendees, and do a little bit of homework on LinkedIn. I jumped the gun because I wanted to say one more thing. Connect with the speakers. Be bold. Follow them on LinkedIn if you're afraid, or connect with them on LinkedIn, or follow their company or their website or their social media handles as well. You're going to an event that they're going to be at. They're looking to build their brand and awareness. So go ahead and try to connect or follow that speaker. Bring business cards. What I say is, if you don't work for a company and you're still a student or you're in a job transition, create a personal business card. I'm always impressed when people have their own card, and it can say, this is my name, my email, my LinkedIn and social media handles. And on the back of that business card, here are the 5 key skills or job titles that I am looking for. And it's very easy and inexpensive to get a bunch of business cards made nowadays. There's a lot of places to do that online and on site for like $20, but then you're showing up with something in your pocket. And if not, on LinkedIn, be prepared to share your LinkedIn profile. So I don't know if y'all know this and if this is going to work and if I can show you this, but if you're on LinkedIn and you're on your profile page, you can share your QR code in the top corner, and then people can just share their QR codes. And this might not work while I'm doing this live for you, but share via, and then you have a little action. So there's like a share button. You're not gonna be able to see, but on LinkedIn, this is me. There's a little share your contact info button, and you can connect with people that way and share your button. But if you don't have a business card, try to at least connect with that person or find that person on LinkedIn, or get their phone number, text them, right? What's your phone number so I can text you so we can stay in touch. Oh, this was my right pocket, left pocket strategy. So as a female, this is hard because some of our clothes don't have pockets. I mean, I love to wear a dress, but not a lot of dresses have pockets. So you may need to put a blazer on or a jacket on, or have a purse that has 2 separate pockets. But my trick is I keep my business cards in my right pocket so I can reach in with my right hand and hand it to the person before I'm shaking their hand. And then when I collect someone's business card, I put it in my left pocket. So all the new business cards I have are in my left pocket. So at the end of the night, I'm going to get all those cards out of my left pocket and have them and enter them into my contacts on my phone or wherever I'm going to enter them. My other trick, in case I forget to tell you later, is at the end of the night, on the back of the business cards, if I've collected them, I write the event and the date that I met the person. So that you know, and hopefully that also makes it into your contacts. You don't have to have a fancy CRM, even just your iPhone contacts under notes. You can say, met at the Wake Invest in Women networking event on November 4th. LinkedIn is important and critical. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you need one. If you don't have a job and you're still a student, that's fine. You still need a LinkedIn profile. That's how people professionally network and are found. And then I told you about that QR code. So just check in LinkedIn, how do you use a QR code to share with someone so that they can scan your LinkedIn profile. But before going to any networking event, please make sure that your LinkedIn profile is up to date. Please have a picture on your LinkedIn profile. It makes you more real and authentic and real. People believe that you're a human, you're a real human and not a bot or something if you have a picture. But that's the number one platform to connect with people in a professional network. I use LinkedIn and Twitter professionally. I also have a professional company Instagram page, but I don't connect with people on Facebook or Instagram from my professional life. Those are my personal contacts. So there's social media sites that are good for friends and personal relationships, and then there's sites for social networking that are important to have from a business standpoint. And then know the type of event and the audience and dress appropriately. So is it business casual? Are people coming to work and are jeans acceptable? Are people going to be in suits? You know, is a dress, you know, more acceptable? And if you don't know, ask one of the event founders or coordinators that's hosting the event and shoot an email. What is the proper attire for this event? Or take a look on the website of any of their pictures and galleries of previous events and kind of get a feel for the audiences. Yeah, thank you, Casey put in the notes that your events are going to be business casual. So that means jeans are, jeans are appropriate. Again, wear something that has pockets so that you can implement that previous strategy. But so you know and you can feel confident how you show up. I told you I wear dresses often, and I also wear heels. I'm a pretty tall woman. You can't tell on video, but I'm 5'6". But I'm in IT sales, and I meet a lot of men that are taller than me, and I don't like them looking down on me. I want to look them in the eye, so I try to be as tall as I can. And the heels give me a little bit more confidence in how I walk, and I kind of increase my height by 3 inches. So I'm 5'9", and it makes me more at eye level with people. But that's me and one of my tricks. And if you're not comfortable in heels, don't buy heels and wear heels just for a networking event, because you do want to be comfortable, but you also want to be appropriate. And then I mentioned this a little bit earlier about the researching the speakers, but follow the event, know their hashtags for social media, connect with any of the event hosts or the speakers that are going to be at that event, so that you are up to date on that. And then while you're there, one of my next tips is going to be take pictures and post about the event that you're at. And then my other favorite is invite someone that you know to go with you to a networking event. It's intimidating for a lot of people to go networking, but it's more comfortable if you already know someone in the room and you have that person to start the event with and maybe catch up with in the middle of the event at the dinner or drink table, and then come back to at the end of the night. And I had this friend, Marlon, that I used to network with that was in a slightly different sales role than me at a different company. He sold data center technologies. And he would invite me to events and I would invite him to events, and we both show up, and we'd always say hello and you know, greet each other at the beginning, and then we'd go off and make friends and network, and then at the end we would reconvene and share notes and swap contacts and be like, oh, you didn't meet Susie, or you didn't meet John, well, I wish you would have met John or Susie, here's their contact info. And so it almost force multiplied the number of people that I was able to speak to, because I had Marlon there networking as well. And we would catch up either at the end of the event, or if we were tired and it was too late, we'd set up a coffee appointment the following couple of days and literally share contacts that we had met at the previous event. So another cool tip, but bring someone that you know, go with a friend, go with someone else on this call, so that you have, you know, that security blanket of someone that you are familiar with. All right, I'm going to pause for questions before we get into the next chapter. Was there any questions that I missed in the chat? Do we
There were
have
no
any
questions.
questions?
There was no questions in the chat. I had a couple of questions since we're taking questions.
Sure.
So one of the things we were talking about business, you were talking about business cards, and I know that now there's apps and more, you know, electronic ways of doing business cards. So are people, since you're out there networking, are people really utilizing these apps, or is it really that people are really still kind of going with classic business cards? So is it worth the investment?
That's a good point. Like if you have like a virtual business card with like a QR code that someone can scan, as long as there's a way to collect, you want to be able to collect the other person's information and give. The LinkedIn QR code is an easy way. A business card QR code is an easy way. You know, you all are students of technology, right? So use the technology. Business cards could be taboo and old school. I mean, a lot of times they just get shelved, right? The goal is just to get that information into your phone. But find a way that you are prepared to share your contact info. Either I think a QR code on your phone, if there's an app, I don't know if there's better technology solutions out there. I'm old school. I still have business cards, but I also use that like LinkedIn QR code. Find me on LinkedIn and we'll figure out a way beyond LinkedIn to share email and phone number and stay in touch.
There is an app that I'll share with you guys that it's free. Let me just find it as we move forward, and I'll put it in the chat so that, and I know that may be more comfortable for our young people that, you know, because it's technology, everything with the phone is just a click and you send it, and it's a really cool thing. So let me find mine. The other question that I did have, you said really quickly, you said take pictures and post it, but you
That's
didn't
going to be
elaborate. Okay,
Yep.
go
In my
ahead.
next slide, when we talk about what you're doing at the event, that was my like, um, it was the follow the people and know the hashtags in
Right.
preparation. So when you're at the event, you're able to do my next tip, which we'll get to in topic two.
I will be quiet. Next,
No, you're
next
good. You're
question.
jumping ahead. I slipped
Uh,
and like I like dropped the little crumb about what we were
Okay.
covering.
I, I'm picking them up. I'm picking them up.
Any other questions? And feel free to like take a screenshot. Again, she'll send out the PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully there's one thing on here that you don't think about or haven't done or would be new for you to implement in your next networking event. All right. So we're going to go on to topic two. What do you do at the event? So now it's the day of this event. You've done your preparation and your homework. You show up, you're ready, right? Brene Brown's one of my other favorite authors, Daring Greatly, and she's got another book, but her quote is all about studying the behavior of courage and vulnerability. And her quote is, courage starts with showing up and letting ourselves be seen. So leave you with that little tidbit. We'll move on to now you're there, day of the event. And what do we do? The first thing is give yourself plenty of time to get there and get parked. The worst thing is you get stuck in traffic and you're stressed out that you're late. You're going to have to walk into a room after the event's already started and you already have a lot of this anxiety and stress going on. So give yourself ample time to get there and get parked. Don't take work calls or calls on the way there. Listen to pump up music, whoever that music is for you, whoever your favorite artist is, but mentally prepare to be walking into this event in the right mental space. get there early in the parking lot and, give yourself a little pump up music and like, give yourself some positive affirmations about how awesome you are at meeting new people. Listen to that Audible book that like pumps you up, read some quotes, do something to get yourself in the right state of mind. Talk about first impressions. So dress appropriately, like we talked about, or dress to what makes you feel confident. Write your name tag legibly, best handwriting, first name, last name, either, right? But write your name tag legibly because people are going to be reading that. Use a firm handshake, or I guess it's not, handshakes are taboo now too. So whatever, fist bumps or elbow bumps or whatever we're allowed to do. Smile, make eye contact, again, first impressions. You never know who this person is that you're meeting and what lasting relationship is going to look like. Also, everyone's in the same boat. A lot of people are anxious about going to networking events or anxious about meeting new people. They might also be there for the first time and not have any friends in the room. And so they may be welcoming your connection and your contact. You may help them feel more comfortable by being the person to have that icebreaker and reach out to them. So know that you are not alone. This is a key. I am really good at this because I'm practiced. My husband always forgets people's names. 10 seconds later, he'll walk away and be like, who was that? Like, and I'm like, you've met that person before. They're the parents of my kids' best friends. How do you not know? So here's the trick. Use their name more than once in the conversation. Repeat their name, use their name. It will help you commit to memory their name. And it also creates familiarity. People like to hear their name, right? There's like this old Shakespeare quote about a rose by any other name, right? So it just makes you feel more confident and more comfortable. When I say, Sandra, really great to meet you. Sandra, it's interesting that you love the NC State Wolfpack. It's interesting, that you were a beauty queen, like use their name in the conversation and it will help you remember that person and it will help that other person feel more comfortable. Listen more than you talk. This is hard for me. In case you haven't noticed, words come very easily for me. But God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Networking is about building a relationship, which means this isn't about an opportunity just to talk about yourself. If you've been really lonely because of the pandemic and haven't gotten out much and don't have a lot of friends, like don't use this time to just like divulge your whole life story, right? Share a little, ask a question, get the other person engaged, listen, share a little more. It has to be a back and forth, but the goal is to listen more than you talk. Take pictures. This was the plug from before, Sandra, right? So take pictures of the speaker or their slide deck or the room or their signage and use those social media hashtags. It's share that you were at that event and share what you liked about that event and be in that community. And then you can follow those hashtags on whatever your social media platform may be, Twitter, LinkedIn, Insta, whatever. And you'll see who else was at that event. And that's another way for you to connect with the people at the event. So take pictures, not just a selfie, but like a picture of the speaker and a slide deck that was, memorable for you. Quality over quantity. So I always set goals. I'm a goal person, sales and athlete, right? So goal setting. So maybe your goal is small. I want to meet 3 new people, or I want to meet 5 new people, or I want to meet the speaker. But set a goal and try to have genuine conversations that you're meeting a new connection that you have a plan to follow up with, not try to meet 10 people and have no quality of conversation, right? It's not speed networking. You're not going to work your way through the room and meet half of the room. You're not trying to go collect a bunch of business cards. You'd rather have 3 deep, meaningful conversations that last and that have a potential follow-up action item. And the goal is not to ask for a job. Don't go into the networking event to ask for a job. make a friend, make a connection, set a follow-up coffee. We'll talk about the follow-up. You can ask for a job a week from now. Don't ask for a job tonight. You all are there to be meeting new people, to hear the speaker, to hear the topic, and to network. Unless it is a job fair and they have a booth and they are specifically recruiters looking for employees, we're not networking for a job, right? The job is going to happen after we've built that genuine rapport and relationship. Speak up. Ask the speaker a question during Q&A. It gives you a chance to stand up, introduce yourself. There might be someone else in the room that would want to have met you after you've introduced yourself. Ask a question. It shows that you're engaged and that you're participating, that you're interested, and you're following along with the presentation. Speakers love it. The worst thing is for a speaker to be in an audience of 100 people and just have shared a ton of things and no one has any questions. You're like, well, I either flopped and no one was interested and they're bored and they want to get out of here. is really what you think, right? Or I've overstayed my welcome.
Totally.
And then the other thing is make a friend with the wallflowers. Don't be the wallflower, but don't try to interrupt a conversation if there are people chatting in away and really engaged. Look for someone who's by themselves or, at a table alone or off to the side that's also potentially uncomfortable in the situation, and make a friend with the straggler or the person on the outskirts. Make that person feel included. That person would probably be really welcoming of your connection because it might be hard for them to be there too. I make an effort to try to make a friend with the person that looks like they're alone. Another great place to make a friend and start a conversation is in line, at the bar, at the food buffet, at the bathroom for the ladies' room where there's always a line. Again, not the awkward, where do you work and what jobs do you have available for me? But, what was the last book that you read? Is this your first time here? How long have you lived in Raleigh? Do you own a dog? I don't know, just like, what are you doing for the holidays? Or what was the best vacation? What are your vacation plans? Just find something. Oh, and then I mentioned this before about the business cards. So old school, I like the business cards because I do take the time to take the note and write where I was. But again, the business card makes it into your Outlook contacts or iPhone contacts, and then it probably is thrown away or discarded. But you want to be able to keep track of who you met, where you met them, however you do that. Some people are more technology advanced than I. All right, that is the end of topic 2. Questions at this point? You're at the event now. Any questions or further clarification needed?
Kate, I have a question. This is Casey.
Hi, Casey.
When you're using the person's name, how do you find that line of using their name but not sounding like you're a salesperson, used car salesperson, as an example?
I mean, you don't need to use it like every single time. Don't start every sentence with Casey, right? But use it a couple of times. I think 3 times is what I've heard helps you commit things to memory, right? If you say it, if you write it, if you repeat it. I mean, repeating their name. Hi, Casey, nice to meet you. I'm Kate Lewis. And then listen to a question or conversation and be like, that's really interesting, Casey, that you mentioned that your favorite book is Great Gatsby. My favorite book is this, and then maybe mention it at the end. It was a pleasure meeting you, Casey. Thank you for your time. I really hope that we can follow up after this event to get to know each other further. Or that was really interesting. Thank you for sharing that with me, Casey. I probably would say it 3 times. Beginning, middle, and end. That doesn't
like
make
that.
you a stalker. Okay.
Yeah, that feels natural.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And thank you, Casey, for speaking up and asking a question. All right, topic 3. Maybe I'll get brave at the end. Follow-up. So now what do we do after this event, right? And this is another one of my favorite quotes. Offer to help people. The currency of real networking is not greed, but generosity. All right, so follow up. After the event, you thought it was over, but now what? What was the goal of that event, right? It wasn't just to like meet people, maybe it was, but now what do? Be helpful, generous, considerate, empathetic, professional, and respectful. Remember, like this is a new friend. They don't owe you anything. You don't owe them anything, right? So let's start with offering to help, most likely. Connect on LinkedIn if you didn't do that at the night of the event on the QR code, or if you have the follow-up. Create a personalized message, something about your conversation. I really enjoyed learning about that you grew up in Buffalo. I really enjoyed this quote from the speaker because I have a picture of the quote from the speaker, right? So maybe it wasn't about the specific conversation that you had with that person, but it was something else that happened at the event. Great meeting you. Good luck with your race because you found out the person is a triathlete. Something that is personal that shows that you listened and that you cared, keeping that relationship going. If you got their business card, you email them, and instead of connecting on LinkedIn or in addition, and then request a follow-up coffee meeting. Hey, the conversation was great. We ran out of time. I'd love to get to know you better and get to, explore deeper about what you're doing with that nonprofit association rescuing dogs. Just show them that you listened and you cared, right? The same thing as before. Also, I don't know if y'all know this trick, but Panera has a coffee club. And it's like $10 a month, and it's unlimited fountain coffee and tea beverages. And you can work from it. Sorry?
It is so worth it.
It's so worth it. And so every time I meet someone, my first go-to is to offer a Panera. And you know what? There's like 17 Paneras in Raleigh-Durham around town. Like, so there's going to be one that's convenient for you to meet at. They have bigger spaces because it's a restaurant for lunch and stuff, right? So more tables and spaces than a Starbucks that might be crowded. And you show up before them because you're going to start showing up everywhere you go early. Get your coffee that was already part of your plan and paid for, and then they can buy their coffee. So it doesn't cost you anything to have the follow-up coffee meetings at a Panera. $10 a month. And it includes those like soft drinks too, if you're not a coffee or tea drinker. But yeah, again, not sponsored by Panera or LinkedIn, but I think it's a good plan. Follow up follow the companies that you've met on social media. So you're going to connect with the person, but you're also going to follow their company because then you see all the posts and news about the company. And with social media, I mainly mean LinkedIn because again, professional networking, but follow the companies, follow your target companies. If there's a dream company, if you really want to work at SAS, follow SAS on social media. Ask for their advice. So after you've started to establish a relationship with someone, when you're going to go to coffee, ask for their advice. I'm new in my career. I'm transitioning in my career. I admire where you've gotten to in your career. How did you get there? Or what would you say to your younger self getting started in this profession? Or I'm really looking for a mentor. How did you find a mentor? Or how would you go about mentoring? Or what are your favorite meetup groups and networking groups in town that you attend frequently? Do you have any recommendations? People love giving advice. People love talking about themselves. Ask for help. Ask for advice. I talked about the Panera, invite them to coffee. Coffee is less expensive than lunch. It is easier to meet with, and it's more appropriate than inviting people for a beer or wine. So start with coffee, first date, right? Kind of same rules that you would have if you were dating. Focus on how you can help them or serve them. So if you are a good reader or if you do a lot of reading news articles and journals, sometimes I'll send people an article that I read. This reminded me of you. And, we were talking about something similar to this, like here's a journal or an article or a news article or a book or something that reminds me of you. Offer a resource, offer a recommendation or an introduction. You mentioned you're planning for your triathlon race. My friend is an avid runner. She loves this technology. Can I help get you in touch with this? You may feel that you are early in your career or a job seeker or in a transition, but everyone has something to offer. Everyone has value. Everyone has knowledge. Everyone has connections. There is something that you can offer to this people that you met as you're building these new network and connections before asking. So I always say offer first. So you don't feel like a salesperson. Not that being a salesperson is bad, because I am a salesperson, but invite them to another networking event. Hey, we met at this networking event. You really made my night easier to, have a great conversation and make a new connection. I'm going to this other networking event. Would you want to join me? Shared interest. We are following up. We're continuing to build on this relationship that we've established at this previous networking event, and you're adding value. And again, don't rush, because relationships take time. They need to be authentic. They need to feel like you care and you're making a genuine effort to get to know them, that you want to follow up. You're making an effort to continue that conversation. It wasn't just a transaction once and done. Again, don't rush it. It's kind of like dating. When you're making new friends, making friends is hard. Making professional friends is hard. Asking for business is hard. And then finally, after that second coffee or after that second networking event or after an exchange of some back and forth or a phone call or a Zoom meeting or something, then is it appropriate to ask about a job? Does their company have an employer referral program? Hey, I saw this job posting. I know that you work at this company. Can you tell me any more? Can I have an informal informational meeting with you about this company? Is there a way that you can help me figure out how to best navigate applying for this job that I found? But then I'm talking a week, 2 weeks after you've met this person, maybe a month after you've met this person, not immediately, is when you ask. And that was the end. Okay. Oops, and I got out of presentation mode. Oh, and it's gonna make me go through this again. All right, questions on this part? Or we're gonna get all the way to the end and then we'll ask. This is actually a picture of one of the networking events for my Carolina Women in Tech group that I meet with. So the greatest people skill is a highly developed and authentic interest in other people. Sandra mentioned this about me. When I get to know you, I'm actually like listening and really going to remember, things about you personally that you shared with me. And if you are not good and don't have a good memory, take notes and put them in your contact database. But you might remember something that someone shared about you, about themselves to you, and so that you can bring that back up the next time, right? I also pay really close attention to remember if someone shared with me if they're a mom or not, because I don't like to make assumptions, even though I am one. And if they have dogs and they're a fur mom, or if they're single or not married or divorced, and I want to make sure that I'm not going to insult them by inferring where they are and what stage of their life that they are in, and that they're in the same stage of life that I'm in. It's very difficult to remember people's kids' ages and names because ages change all the time, but haven't mastered that part yet. All right, so that is the end. This is the Q&A part. I don't know, we have until the top of the hour or how many minutes we have left, Sandra, but I want to make myself available as a resource to ask questions about things that maybe I didn't cover in the presentation, questions that you have. Make sure everyone is ready to go for the networking event you have next week and all future networking events.
Awesome. We've got about 10 minutes. So I have a question. So first, let's go to the chat. There was inviting someone to the networking event with you? Should it be someone in the same field? Did you see that
Um,
question in the chat from Lasagna?
yeah, possibly. I mean, it depends. It's a shared interest. It doesn't have to necessarily be the same field. Like I'm not in bio, but I'm going to a women in bio event because I really enjoy meeting other working women, right? So it can be any event that you're going to that could be of interest. Um, but and not everyone's going to want to attend the same events. So it should be relevant and potentially of interest, but it doesn't have to be exact.
Got you. And in regards to the event next week, if we invite someone, do they have to be a Wake Tech student? Yes, for this particular event, they would need, it's open to all Wake Tech students. They don't have to be a part of Wake Invest in Women specifically, but they do have to be a Wake Tech student. Have another question from Melanie. How do you end a conversation without being awkward or rude? Great question, Melanie.
Oh, this is hard. Because this is hard because I have these groups that I'm in and I take leadership roles and I'm easy to talk to and people talk to me, but I haven't been able to like leave and go talk to other people. So I have two ways to get out of a conversation. One is this was really interesting, and I'd love to explore further and deeper when we can get together after this event, but I don't want to prevent you from being able to meet more people during this limited networking time. Now that we have each other's information and have had this introduction, would it be appropriate for me to follow up and we can meet for coffee maybe next week? First one, right? Something along the lines of like, I don't want to be in the way of you meeting more people while we're here. Let's agree that we like each other, we've shared contact info, and we will be following up, and there is an action plan. Part two is, and this takes a little bit more skill. I do this a lot to people. So if you're ever networking with me and I do this to you, apologies. I introduce them to someone else. So I'm like, hey, you know what? You would really like Sandra. You both went to Wake Tech. And I do an intro and then I like, hope you guys enjoy meeting each other. And then I ghost, right? Like I leave, like I go find another conversation. But I've done like a handoff so that they're not like left alone by introducing them to a new person. And they also benefit from meeting a new person instead of being stuck talking to Pete. And part three is the more cowardice way, is I escape to the bathroom. and say, or say, I'm about to go ahead in line for the food or the drinks. And I'm like, make that as my excuse. So like that's the cowardice way, but I've done it before because there's been some people that have literally stalked me to go to events and like won't leave me alone. And I just needed to leave. But the first way is the most polite way and probably the best way.
That was really good. I have a question for you. So
Sure.
you talked a lot about the how when it comes to networking, but what I really want to know is the why, right? So for example, you are a networker. You are that's first of all your natural personality. It's your jam. You are an entrepreneur. You're in sales, right? So you have a very specific intention. So when you go out with your friend and you guys are out, you know, in these networking meetings, like you're going to ones that are not even within your field because you have an intention to meet people for the reasons that you're the connector.
Yep.
But when it comes to like the general person who's going into a networking setting, and when you say, don't you ask them for no job, you got to wait a month. Don't go in there asking for stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So relationships take, real authentic relationships, it takes time to cultivate that. And life is full and life is hard enough, with all of the people that are already in our lives. So being able to decipher who do we want to network with and why. So can you talk a little bit about the benefits of networking just in terms of being able to because you don't want, like you said, you don't need everybody's number in the room, because these are not all relationships that you have even the time and energy to cultivate, or you don't even need to. So how, for our students in the seat that they're sitting in, how can they identify These are valuable, these are the people that you need to be trying to build relationships with, because we might not see this, like it's like, in business we saying you're leaving money on the table because we're not thinking, we don't have that lens to really even see what opportunities or the potential that lies in that connection. Because it's like, oh, if it's not a job, then it must be nothing. No, it could be something else. So how do we
Yeah.
determine who it is that we need to be trying to connect with, and what's the why?
Yep. I love it. So most
Yeah.
people are networking to either build a customer base or to find a new job opportunity or to learn something new. So I would say the students in the room that are potentially going to be job seekers at some point, right, or are currently job seekers at some point, are trying to up level and upskill in their careers, is your networking needs to be at networking groups that have a similar interest to your jobs and skills and field, because you want to go with the intention of learning about the topic and the speaker and the presenter and meeting other people that have similar jobs in your target industry and target role. And you want to meet those people and be a part of that community and keep showing up, because you want to be a part of a community so that when you are ready to look for a job, you've already made those friends and those connections at companies that are in your industry or in your target job market and field. And that's what I said about it means it takes time, right? So I'm in the Association of IT Professionals and Carolina Women in Tech because I mainly focus on IT recruiting. So the positions that I'm filling are mainly for IT positions, and the people that I meet could potentially either be a client or a candidate. That's the space I typically sit in, but I love supporting working women of all fields. So I'm going to the Women in Bio event, right? And I think that joining one or two networking groups, usually a networking group meets monthly, one time a month, is a good goal for a beginner to start with, right? It's a one night or twice a month commitment to go to a networking event and to be a part of a community. That's my why. I think there were a couple other questions in the chat though, I saw maybe.
Thank you for that. That was good stuff. How long do you wait before following up? Does it differ for different fields or careers?
The next day, maybe 48 hours, how quickly are you available, right? Usually an event might be lunch or evening, you're busy, you're gonna add the information, but you don't want it to go too long. Like I wouldn't wait longer than a week before following up, because the person's gonna think that they forgot about you. And hopefully, if you did a good job and were genuinely interested and made a genuine connection, they are gonna follow up with you too, right? It's not all on you to follow up, right? Hopefully a couple of the people that you had a conversation with might ask you out for coffee. It really depends on the conversation that you had and the exchange of information. But I'd say the next day is a good standard best practice. I love that, Casey, you think the bathroom is a valid excuse. I use the restroom often myself. Where can we find networking events and how do we search for it? Meetup.com is one way. LinkedIn has groups. So most of the nonprofit associations and board of directors that I serve on have their own LinkedIn pages, and you can search by groups. You can just also Google like the city that you live in, Raleigh, Durham, the area of interest, IT groups, and kind of see and calendars. Also, WRAL has an events calendar page, and the chambers, Raleigh Chamber, Durham Chamber, also have events pages. And so they share what other meetup groups are doing around town. Yeah, so hi, Mel. I think I know Melissa. Yeah, Chambers of Commerce is another.
Hi there. Sorry, I wanted to join. Can I tell a quick little story just about networking? Kate and I used to work together. We don't work together anymore. We've kept in contact. I have recently been in transition. And we just go to lunch, once a month and stay in contact. Well, she came across somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody that needed an HR consultant. She put me in touch, and I started the contract 5 days later. So it's just an example of, even if, Kate's industry is a little different than mine right now, keeping those connections, because you never know when you're going to meet somebody that knows somebody that is interested in maybe what you're doing, even if they're in a little bit different industry. So I just wanted to give that little shout out to Kate and just share that, yeah, the networking piece and maintaining your relationships and networking is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that plug. I didn't know you were there until you posted the commerce question.
Yeah.
So thank you. Yeah, the reason I was able to start my own business is because I spent 15 years cultivating connections and relationships and contacts in the local market and building a reputation. And every week, every day, I get blasts from the past, text messages or phone calls or emails that are like, hey, I was thinking about you, or I saw your post, or I'm in the job market again and wanted to keep in touch, right? So it's investing today for future. If you're not looking for a job today, you're still a student and you're not graduating until May, you have 6 months lead time to start networking, to start leading, creating those connections and those meaningful relationships before you need a job. But it's just like gardening. You need to plant the seeds and water the seeds and grow the garden before you can harvest. It takes time. It's not a immediate solution. And if you haven't networked and you find yourself in the job market, it's painful and you might be unemployed longer because you hadn't made the investment in that network and in that garden earlier on. So not to scare you. Did I miss any other of the questions? How long did we wait to follow up? Where do we find networking events? Do you follow up with just people in your field or everyone you meet? Melissa kind of mentioned this, Lizette. I follow up with everyone that I meet because every connection that you make could be 1 degree closer to your next opportunity. And everyone at every level in an organization is still a new contact. And then once you're connected on LinkedIn to them, it's like this, you have access, it's like a spider web to like the 2nd degree contacts. So like their contacts and they can help introduce you to people that they know. And you never know who someone's sister, brother, husband, wife, neighbor, dad, mom, friend is. So every connection is important. And when you're looking for a job, you don't want to only meet hiring managers because an employee at that company can give you a really good feel for what it's like to work at that company and what the culture is like, and could be really incentivized for an employee referral program to help you get a job there because a lot of companies pay for employee referrals. So it's mutually beneficial for them to put your name in the hat for a new opportunity at their company.
Well, this has been incredible. Are there any other questions before we wrap up? Because I'm just going to go ahead and give you a round of applause on my little.
Thank you.
That was so good. I know that everybody got a lot out of that. We thank you so much. If there's any last questions, go ahead and put it in the chat right now because we're going to wrap up. I am going to follow up with all of you and send you this video as well as her PowerPoint, which has her contact information. If I were you, I would link up with her on LinkedIn right now because obviously Kate Lewis is the person to know. But if there's no other questions, if you got 30 seconds, if you got a question, ask it right now.
I'm glad we finished.
I have a question.
Oh,
There
sure.
you go.
So, what advice would you give to students who are still not working and they have time until they graduate? So, what advice would you give for networking?
So volunteer with a nonprofit and use your skills and put your skills to use. That is my advice. Build a portfolio, build an app. If you love dogs, go to the SPCA and ask, how can I help with your marketing? How can I help with your website? How can I help with your fundraising? There's ways to volunteer while you're a student and build some skills as well as some connections and serve a community. I have a servant leadership heart. Community involvement and community service is at my core. Can't fake that stuff. And you can add that stuff to your CV and your resume and your LinkedIn when you are ready to apply.
Awesome. Okay, well,
Good
Kate,
question.
thank you again so much. We appreciate your
Good.
time. Everyone, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we will, those of you who are available, we look forward to seeing you next week, Wednesday, at our face-to-face networking event. Have a great day, everybody.